What sounds like pseudoscience but actually isn't? The effect on your dopamine receptors from fantasizing, imagining things. I forget the exact term. As it turns out, you can achieve a pretty high dopamine response from fantasizing, imagining, talking about goals, which can provide your brain with enough happy chemicals to actually hinder your drive to go and achieve those things for real. This sounds like bullshit, but it's true. Some people essentially self-medicate their depression this way. It is called maladaptive daydreaming. You basically use daydreaming like an addict uses heroin, giving yourself a dopamine rush by fantasizing having reached goals or making yourself a hero. It can even interfere with your ability to form relationships or complete daily tasks. In group therapy, a guy called it future tripping, and I thought it was a funny way to put it. My daughter has maladaptive daydreaming. It's bad. We finally figured out what it is this summer, so we haven't really addressed it yet. The main problem is it actually is addictive, so she doesn't want to stop and gets angry when we suggest looking into alternatives. When I was a kid, I daydreamed a lot. Most every moment was dreaming of a different life, scenarios. And then one day when I was mid-teens, it just stopped, like a bubble popping. The weirdest thing about it was that I knew it was about to happen, as though something in my brain said, no more. I could remember the daydreams, but couldn't really live in them anymore. It was also really uncomfortable at first, like wearing a comfortable blanket and a sweater and it suddenly ripped away. It's cold and exposed and just, ugh. And 20 years later, I still miss it. I did fine in school, just had more to my life than this. It's almost like colors got dimmed. I have celiacs and simply can no longer eat many things I used to enjoy. It's very effective to sit down and imagine eating some really excellent bread. The smell, the texture, the taste, how warm it is. Really wallowing in the memory. And my brain, dumb idiot, is tricked. It says, oh, hell yes, that was some good bread, thanks for that, it was excellent. Not sure how that applies to goals specifically, but you can absolutely change your mood with your imagination. This works in other food scenarios as well. When I was young and very poor and working at Bath and Body Works, I discovered that if you smelled food-scented soap or lotion and drank some water right after, it felt like you just ate that food, and hunger tapered off for a while. Jesus, that felt pathetic to type out, but it's true. Is this why I am really struggling ATM to get back into my gym grind and to compete again since before COVID? I daydream about it every day. I get excited and extremely motivated. I think about my workouts, plans, and food. But when it finally comes to doing it, I feel like I am worn out from it already. I feel like I have been doing it for months and months already and lose all motivation. This has been me my entire life with everything from chores to hobbies. Ever heard of epigenetics? It sounds like pseudoscience with its talk of genes being turned on and off by environmental factors. But it's a legit field of study. It's all about how lifestyle and environment can influence gene expression without altering the DNA sequence itself. It can alter the DNA structure by methylation, as one example. DNA methylation is a type of epigenetic modification that involves adding a methyl group to DNA, which can turn genes off. My son has a disease where a single gene has been methylated, waiting for science and medicine to turn it back on. You absorb more nutrients from cooked eggs than you do from raw eggs. People don't believe it because cooking eggs actually does reduce the amount of nutrients. But cooking them changes the protein structures and makes it easier for your body to actually absorb them. It's called protein denaturation, and it increases the bioavailability of the proteins. Bioavailability describes what is actually available for your body to digest and absorb. More nutrients doesn't necessarily mean more bioavailability, and less nutrients doesn't necessarily mean less bioavailability. Isn't this one of the theories behind why we were able to evolve to have large, complex brains? Because we harnessed fire, so we were able to access more nutrients than we would have in just raw food. You are correct. Also, cooked meat is easier to digest than raw meat. From what I've read, it's the same for cooked grains, vegetables, legumes, and tubers. Some nutrition is always lost via cooking, but the increased ease of digestion compensates for that. I believe the exception is fruits, especially citrus, where the raw value of vitamin C overshadows the cooked version. Cooking is also more likely to destroy parasites and other disease-causing organisms, thereby making our food safer. The illusory truth effect. People will believe something just because it is repeated, even when they know that what's being said is not true. Used often in politics, specifically propaganda. Say it enough times, people will believe it. It's definitely one of the more concerning aspects of the rise of AI bots, in my opinion. It's going to become easier and easier for bad actors to flood the internet with something and make it look like it's coming from different places. And AI-created images or videos adds an even scarier layer to it. The brain forms subconscious associations, whether we want it to or not. And there's certainly a psychological aspect to repeatedly seeing something that looks real, regardless of whether you know it's fake or not. My therapist pointed this out once, and it has scared me ever since. I was talking to her about how nervous I was that my in-laws, terrible people, say awful lies about me to my husband, and it made me uncomfortable despite both me and my husband knowing those things aren't true. I said something about how I wish I could just be more mature and brush it off, but it made me so nervous to know that dynamic was happening behind my back. That's when she explained the illusory truth effect to me, and it felt like a bunch of puzzle pieces fell into place. Too long. Didn't read. Be careful who you spend time around, Beak. This applies to interpersonal relationships, not just weird conspiracy nutjob shit on the internet. That talk about you changing personalities when switching languages apparently has truth to it. My wife is like this 100%. She born in Japan, but spent her early teens through 20s in America, learning the nuances of English. We live in Japan again now, and seeing her drop her directness and matter-of-fact Americanisms when switching to a Japanese interaction had me absolutely flabbergasted for the first few months. Still cracks me up when she hangs up so politely in Japanese and immediately goes, "Oh my God, that was so fucking annoying." When I was living in Japan and friends or relatives would come visit me, they said I had two personalities depending on which language I was speaking, to the point that started calling me Japan Chris whenever I'd be using Japanese around them. They even said I would laugh differently when speaking Japanese compared to English. You tend to absorb culturalisms when learning another language, particularly if you are around native speakers, so my body language, tone, and even my laugh would apparently switch between languages. Anything to do with platypuses. Yeah, don't mind the egg-laying mammals with the face of a duck and the tail of a beaver that sweats milk and has toxic spurs on the back of his feet. That is a very unfortunate typo. It's not so much a pseudoscience as it is just good old-fashioned underfunding for research. But gut microbiome health is way more than just the health of one's gut. I was a scientist at a gut microbiome pharma company, and now I'm in the plant microbiome space. There's a lot of pseudoscience and/or bad science in the gut microbiome area. Lots of wild claims from probiotic companies. We tested a bunch of probiotic products to try and get ideas for formulating live microbe drugs, and we found that many products didn't contain live active microbes, or orders of magnitude less live microbe than their minimum claim. We also found that the capsules didn't protect live microbes from stomach acid in simulated dissolution assays, and some just have wild claims without peer review for the health benefits. In pharma, gut microbiome drugs haven't been as successful as was hoped. There are some on the market now, but they aren't miracles drugs. I definitely don't think it's all pseudoscience, but I think a lot of it is poorly understood and over-embellished. Having blue eyes can make you prone to sneezing when exposed to bright light. Blue eyes also take in more light, so the world is legit brighter for blue-eyed folks. I have really pale blue eyes, almost silver, and my husband has brown, and he's always amused at how goddamn blind I am when I'm outside with him and he can see fine. He's actually had to help me navigate to our car because I literally can't see. I have the opposite of this, where my light blue-eyed husband laughs at me, brown eyes, for needing to use the torch on my phone at night. So, as we can see, many things that might sound like pseudoscience actually have a solid scientific basis. From how our thoughts can affect dopamine levels to the impact of genetics on our health, these examples show how easy it is to dismiss something as a myth until you learn the facts. It's important to stay curious and not jump to conclusions, relying on verified information. If you enjoyed this video and want to discover more interesting scientific facts, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and don't forget to click the bell icon so you don't miss the next episodes. See you in the next video.